I've been living in a world of illusions, I guess. I thought I knew what I wanted from life, from relationships, and from myself. But it turns out, I didn't really understand what I was looking for in people. Davy and I had been together for 2 years, and I thought we were perfect for each other. We laughed together, made plans, traveled, even started fixing up our house. He was my best friend, and I truly believed that we were both on the same page about everything. Things were great. Until the wedding got closer. I'm not sure what happened. Maybe it was just the panic before such a big step in life, or maybe I was searching for something I felt I was missing. But right at the last minute, in the middle of all the preparations, something shifted. Laura, my best friend, invited me out to a party. It was just a casual hangout with old friends, but the atmosphere was different. We went to a club where there were lots of people. I wasn't planning anything. I wasn't thinking about cheating on Davy, not in the slightest. I wasn't trying to provoke anything. But, as it turns out, that's exactly what I ended up doing, searching for something, albeit unconsciously. The night started out like any other: dancing, chatting, drinks. I started to relax, laughing with friends. Laura and I shared a few glasses of wine, and the conversation naturally turned to more intimate topics. And that's when I met them, the three guys who had come to the club with some friends. They were confident, charming, attentive. I couldn't resist the attention they were giving me. That night is all a little blurry, not entirely clear in my memories. I remember feeling light-hearted, carefree, as if I could let go of everything for just a few hours. I liked the way they looked at me, the way they made me feel like the center of attention. I didn't have to be someone's girlfriend or fiancé. I could just be myself. And for the first time in a while, that felt amazing. At first, it was just talking, some harmless flirting. But then, they invited me to their table, and we ended up having a few more drinks. I don't even know how it happened, but the next thing I remember is being outside with them, laughing. And then kissing. It was spontaneous, I guess. I didn't plan it. I wasn't thinking about Davy in that moment, and maybe that was the problem. I was just in the moment, and in that moment, I felt desired. I felt seen. And then, one thing led to another. They were all so persistent, so easy going, and I found myself just going along with it. It wasn't something I expected to happen, but it did. I never thought of myself as the type to do something like that, but there I was. Caught in a whirlwind of excitement, and, if I'm being honest, some deep self-doubt I'd been ignoring for months. I felt guilty, yes, but also a bit liberated. It was like I could escape my own thoughts, the pressure of the wedding, the future with Davy. For one night, I was just me with no responsibilities, no expectations. The next morning, I woke up in an unfamiliar room, confused, but not exactly regretful. The guys were still asleep, and I quietly slipped out, trying to piece together the night. I don't even know if I really wanted to remember it all. But the truth is, I didn't feel as bad as I thought I would. Maybe it was because Davy hadn't done anything wrong. He hadn't cheated on me. Maybe it was because I didn't see it as betrayal. I wasn't sure what to call it yet. I went home, back to our place, and Davy was there, waiting for me. He didn't ask any questions, and I didn't volunteer anything. That day was like any other. Except, of course, I knew what had happened, and I knew I couldn't undo it. But the wedding was still coming, and I couldn't back out. I wasn't sure if I even wanted to. I loved Davy, or at least I thought I did. But that night, it was something else. And part of me couldn't forget it. I didn't know how to tell him. I wasn't sure I ever would. I kept telling myself it was a mistake, but it was a mistake that had opened up something inside me. Something I couldn't ignore. The days after the party felt strange. Not in a completely bad way, but definitely different. Davy didn't act like anything was off. He knew I'd gone out with Laura, and he didn't question me when I got home late. He trusts me, and I guess that's what's been bothering me the most. I wasn't the person I'd been pretending to be for him, and I could feel that gap between us growing. But I didn't know how to talk about it, especially when he seemed so oblivious to what I'd done. He'd never ask me anything outright, but I could tell he was picking up on small things. Sometimes, he'd look at me for a second longer than usual, as if he were trying to read me. It wasn't obvious. He wasn't being suspicious, but there was a shift in the way we were communicating. Little things like that made me uneasy. The way he kissed me, the way he touched me. It felt different, and I wasn't sure if it was because of me or if he had somehow noticed that something was off. I couldn't stop replaying the night over and over in my mind. The way they'd all looked at me, The way it felt to be desired by more than just one person. I couldn't remember everything, and that's what scared me the most. It wasn't that I regretted it. No, I didn't regret it at all. But I was starting to realize that I was hiding something from him, and that alone made me feel disconnected. Like I was betraying not just him, but myself. I tried to push it all down, telling myself that it was just a one-time thing. It didn't change anything, right? Davy still loved me, I still loved him, and the wedding was just around the corner. I kept convincing myself that it didn't matter. But the more I thought about it, the more I realized that it was becoming impossible to forget. I'd let myself cross a line I didn't even know existed, and I couldn't just erase it. It wasn't like the other things I'd done in the past, the little mistakes or small slip-ups. This felt like something bigger. One night, a few days after the party, Davy and I were having dinner. He'd been talking about the wedding plans, how he couldn't wait to marry me. He was so excited, so sure about everything. And in that moment, I couldn't help but feel like a fraud. How could I stand there, pretending like everything was fine, when inside, I was torn apart by guilt? "Are you okay?" Davy asked, noticing my silence. He always noticed when something was off with me, even if I tried to hide it. I forced a smile, but I felt like my face was stiff. "Yeah," I replied quickly, maybe too quickly. "Just tired, that's all." He frowned but didn't push it. He reached over and took my hand. "You know, I'm really looking forward to the wedding. It's gonna be perfect, don't you think?" he said, his voice full of warmth and excitement. I nodded, but it didn't feel like I was in the same conversation. My mind kept drifting back to that night. The three guys, the kisses, the way it felt to be wanted without expectations. Was I being unfair to Davy by keeping this from him? Was I being unfair to myself, pretending that nothing had changed? "I know," I said softly, but my voice felt distant. "It's gonna be perfect." The words sounded hollow even to me. I could feel the tension building up in my chest, but I didn't know how to explain it. I didn't even know how to begin. What could I say? That I'd spent the night with 3 strangers, and I didn't feel as guilty as I thought I would. That, in some strange way, I'd felt free in a way I hadn't felt in months. No, that would never work. It wasn't about Davy, it was about me. That night, as we went to bed, I lay there next to him, staring at the ceiling. I could feel his warmth next to me, his slow, steady breathing. He didn't know what I'd done. He didn't know what was eating me up inside. And I didn't know how to make him understand. I wanted to tell him, I really did. But how could I? How could I explain something that didn't even make sense to me? I wasn't sure if I was more afraid of his disappointment, or of the fact that I didn't feel as bad as I thought I would. The truth was, I wasn't sure what I was looking for that night. Was I looking for attention? Validation? Or was I just looking for something that made me feel alive again? I couldn't answer that. But I could feel it deep down. This longing that hadn't been there before. And every time I looked at Davy, it gnawed at me. When I woke up the next morning, the weight of the night before was still there, lingering in the back of my mind. I couldn't shake the feeling that everything was different now, even if nothing had changed on the surface. The smile Davy gave me as he made coffee in the kitchen. It was the same smile. But to me, it felt like a reminder of something I could never undo. I wanted to be honest. I wanted to confess. But I didn't know if it was too late. The wedding day arrived, and everything was perfect. I had convinced myself that the past few weeks of nervousness and doubt were just pre-wedding jitters. The stress of planning, the last-minute details. Of course, it all felt overwhelming. But when I looked at Davy, standing there in his tuxedo, with his nervous but proud smile, I knew I was doing the right thing. I was going to marry him. We were going to be together forever. There was no going back now. I walked down the aisle, and my heart was racing, not out of fear, but because of the sheer weight of the moment. Davy's eyes locked onto mine, and everything else faded away. This was the man I was supposed to be with. I could see it in the way he looked at me. He was excited, confident, full of love. The ceremony was beautiful, everything I had dreamed of, and for a while, I let myself believe that nothing from the past few weeks, nothing from that one night in the club, mattered anymore. But, as much as I tried to put it behind me, a small, nagging feeling lingered in the back of my mind, and I didn't realize how much it would resurface until later that afternoon. After the ceremony, we had a break before the reception, and that's when I saw it. Laura talking to Davy. It wasn't anything obvious, nothing out of the ordinary, at first. But there was something about the way they were standing so close, the way she was laughing at something he said. My chest tightened in a way I hadn't expected. It wasn't jealousy, at least not in the way I thought it would be. No, it was more like a sudden jolt of fear, as if something inside me was saying, "You're not the only one who's been keeping secrets." I don't know why I felt that way. Maybe it was because I had been so caught up in my own guilt that seeing them together made me question everything. I couldn't stop watching them, though. Every time Davy smiled, or when Laura touched his arm, it made me feel uneasy. I had told myself that whatever had happened with the guys that night was irrelevant now. But seeing Laura so comfortable with him, so at ease, it brought everything rushing back. I tried to brush it off. It was ridiculous, right? They were friends. She was just being friendly. But the more I watched, the more my heart began to race. I wasn't even sure what I was worried about anymore. I had no reason to doubt Davy, yet there was a small part of me that felt exposed, like I was looking at something that shouldn't be seen. I turned to walk away, but before I could make it, I heard footsteps behind me. "Hey, you okay?" It was Laura's voice. I turned, forcing a smile onto my face. She was standing there, her eyes narrowed slightly as if she knew something was wrong. "Yeah, I'm fine," I said, maybe a little too quickly. Just needed a moment. Laura didn't seem convinced. "Are you sure?" she asked, raising an eyebrow. "You've been acting kind of off all day. I mean, I get it, the wedding nerves, but if you want to talk, I'm here." I hesitated, but before I could answer, I heard Davy's voice behind me. "Is everything all right?" I turned, and the look on his face hit me like a punch to the gut. It wasn't the look of a man about to marry his fiancée. It was the look of someone who had just been blindsided, who was trying to figure out why everything felt off. There was something in his eyes. It was confusion, but also concern. "Yeah, everything's fine," I said, my voice almost too high-pitched, but Davy was staring at me now, looking at me in a way I hadn't seen before. He looked between me and Laura, and then back at me. I could feel the tension in the air, and it made my stomach twist. Then, it happened. Without warning, he took a step closer, and his voice was low but sharp. "What's going on? You've been acting weird all day. And what's this about you two talking like this?" he asked, his eyes flicking between Laura and me. I didn't know what to say. I hadn't expected this. I hadn't expected him to notice anything. Maybe I thought I could just keep pretending, but the way he was looking at me now, I couldn't pretend anymore. Laura opened her mouth to speak, but Davy cut her off. "No, I want to hear it from her," he said, his voice now cold, distant. "What's going on with you?" I swallowed hard, suddenly feeling the weight of the secret I'd been carrying. The night with the three guys. The guilt that had been eating me up inside, the growing unease I felt every time I saw Davy smile. Everything was crashing down at once. I don't know what you mean," I said, my voice shaking. "Everything's fine, Davy. Really, it is. I'm just tired. It's a lot today." But he didn't buy it. His expression hardened. "No, this isn't about being tired. This is about something else. You've been distant. And don't think I didn't notice how you two were standing there, acting like I wasn't even in the room." I felt the walls closing in around me. Laura stepped back slightly, her face a mix of confusion and discomfort, but it was Davy's gaze that made everything feel like it was unraveling. "I don't know what's going on, but something's not right. And I deserve to know what it is," Davy said, his voice now barely a whisper, but it cut through the air like a knife. I looked at him, and in that moment, I realized that the facade I had so carefully built was falling apart. He knew something was off. And for the first time since that night, I didn't know what to say. The silence that fell between us was suffocating. Davy stood there, his eyes fixed on mine, waiting for an answer that I couldn't find. His jaw was clenched, his brow furrowed, and I could see how much this was hurting him. I couldn't tell him the truth. Not like this. Not here. I didn't know what to say. The weight of my secret pressed down on me, heavier than anything I'd ever felt. I could feel my heart beating in my throat, and all I wanted to do was run. I should have run away from this moment before it ever happened. But I stayed, frozen, staring at him. I tried to speak, but the words wouldn't come. The truth was a knot in my chest, and no matter how hard I tried, I couldn't untangle it. I couldn't even say it out loud. Not in front of Laura, not in front of him. But Davy wasn't waiting. His voice cracked slightly, as if the frustration was too much to bear. "I knew something was wrong," he said, his voice tight with disbelief. I felt it in the way you were acting. And now I see it. It's like you're hiding something from me. From everyone? I'm not hiding anything. I shot back, my voice desperate, but even I could hear the lie in my words. The moment I said it, I knew it wasn't true. I had been hiding everything. I had been pretending that everything was fine when, deep down, I knew it wasn't. Davy shook his head, his face a mixture of anger and hurt. Then why do I feel like you're pulling away from me? You've been distant for days. What happened at the party? What happened that night? His words were a punch to the gut. It was as if he could see right through me. I opened my mouth, ready to say something, anything, but nothing came out. Laura stood awkwardly beside us, her arms crossed over her chest, clearly caught in the middle of something that neither of us had prepared for. She looked back and forth between us, unsure of whether to intervene or just step away. Laura, do you know what's going on? Davy asked, turning toward her with a desperate look in his eyes. Laura hesitated for a moment, her eyes flicking to me before she shook her head. I don't know, Davy. I thought everything was fine. She hasn't really said anything. Of course she hasn't said anything. Davy muttered bitterly. Because she's been lying, all this time. His words stung, more than I could explain. It felt like every word he said chipped away at the person I thought I was. I wanted to scream, to defend myself, but how could I? How could I justify what I'd done? I closed my eyes for a second, gathering my thoughts. When I opened them again, I saw Davy standing there, his eyes now full of confusion and hurt. I had never seen him look like this before. He had always been so certain of me, so sure of us, but now, I could see the doubt in his gaze. I was just trying to have fun. It wasn't supposed to mean anything. It wasn't supposed to hurt anyone. I said, my voice breaking as the truth finally spilled out. It wasn't about you, Davy. It was just, I don't even know. I was looking for something that I wasn't getting from myself, and that night just happened. I don't know what happened, but I just needed to feel wanted. The words hung in the air, heavy with regret. There was no easy way to explain it, no way to undo what had been done. I was trying to justify myself, to explain the unexplainable, but it sounded pathetic even to me. You slept with them? Davy said quietly, his voice cold and distant now. It wasn't a question, it was a statement, and that hit me harder than anything else he could have said. I nodded slowly, my heart sinking. Yes, I did. I don't understand, he whispered, taking a step back. Why? We were about to get married. You were supposed to be mine, and I was supposed to be yours. We were going to build a life together. How could you do that to me? His words stung more than anything. I knew how much I had hurt him. And the worst part was that I didn't even have a good reason for it. I couldn't explain why I'd done it, except that I had been confused, lost, and too afraid of facing the future. I'm sorry, Davy, I said, my voice trembling now. I'm so sorry. I didn't mean for any of this to happen. I never wanted to hurt you. But the words felt hollow. What was an apology worth when the damage had already been done? What could I say to fix this? Davy shook his head, the hurt in his eyes turning to anger. I don't even know who you are anymore. The person I thought I was marrying, she's gone. She's not here. The words cut through me like a knife. I'm still here, I whispered. I'm still the same person. I didn't know how to deal with it. I didn't know how to handle everything, and then I made a mistake. A huge mistake. You're right about one thing, Davy said, his voice hard. It was a huge mistake. But the real question is, what now? Can I ever trust you again? Can we ever go back to what we were? I didn't have an answer. I didn't even know if there was a way back. The truth was, I had crossed a line that I couldn't erase. And even if Davy forgave me, I wasn't sure if I could forgive myself. Laura, still standing to the side, shifted uncomfortably. Maybe we all just need some space, she said softly, clearly not wanting to make this worse. But it was already too late. The damage had been done. The wedding we had dreamed of was slipping through my fingers, and I wasn't sure if there was any way to fix what had been broken. The wedding was cancelled 2 days later. Just like that. After everything had been planned, every detail set into place, the flowers arranged, the invitations sent out. It was all gone in an instant. I knew, deep down, that it had to happen. I wasn't surprised, not really, but that didn't make it any easier. Davy packed up his things quietly, his face unreadable. He didn't yell, he didn't scream. He just left. The look on his face, when he said goodbye, was all I needed to know. He didn't love me the same way anymore. Maybe he never would. The house that we had picked together. The one we had talked about starting our life in. It felt empty. All the things I thought were solid, all the promises, the laughter, the plans for a future, they evaporated in the blink of an eye. There were no more conversations, no more excited talks about kids or the life we would build. It was just me, standing there in the middle of the mess, watching him leave. I had spent so much time justifying my actions, telling myself that it didn't mean anything, that it wasn't a big deal. But now I had nothing to show for it. No wedding, no fiancé, no promises. Just regret. Laura tried to reach out, but I didn't want to talk to her either. Not now. She didn't have the answers. And honestly, I didn't expect her to. She was my friend, yes. But she wasn't the one who had to live with the consequences of my choices. I spent the next few weeks in a kind of numb fog, the world moving around me while I stood still, paralyzed by everything I had lost. I couldn't even bring myself to go through with the final touches for the wedding that was supposed to be, the one that everyone had been so excited about. The venue was still there, the flowers were still sitting in a box, and the guest list hadn't been touched. The people who had RSVP'd, who had congratulated us on social media, they didn't know. They didn't know that the fairy tale had fallen apart before it could even begin. It took me a while to fully understand how deep my mistakes ran. It wasn't just about the night I spent with those strangers. That was part of it, but the bigger issue was that I had let myself lose touch with who I was. I had allowed myself to get lost in the feeling of being wanted, of being desired, of being somebody's fantasy for just one night. And in doing so, I had lost the person who had meant everything to me. I still don't know where things went wrong between Davy and me. Maybe it was that night. Maybe it was a combination of small things that I ignored, the signs that were there, but I refused to see. But what I do know is that the trust we had built was shattered beyond repair, and that wasn't something I could fix with an apology. I never saw Davy again after he left that day. His friends told me he moved on, and though it stung, I knew it was for the best. I couldn't blame him. As for me, I had to start over. I had to figure out who I was, who I wanted to be. I couldn't keep hiding behind excuses or pretending everything was okay. I couldn't keep pretending I was someone I wasn't. And the hardest part, realizing that I couldn't fix it. I couldn't undo what had been done. The wedding dress that was supposed to be the symbol of our future now sat in my closet, untouched. And when I looked at it, I realized that it wasn't just a piece of fabric. It was a reminder of everything I had lost, everything I had broken. I had wanted to marry Davy so badly, but I lost him before I could even say the vows.